Alright, guys, gals, and everything in between. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm back again with The Strain Season 2, and I had so much fun doing this for Season 1, so I'll do this again with our episode-by-episode discussions. It's been so long since I've done one of these, I almost forgot how to do them. But bear with me, gonna do my best. So guys, it's no secret, The Strain is one of my favorite shows on television, and this episode kicks it off, and it continues to prove my point that this is one of the best shows on television right now. And it's so fantastic. But I do have some concerns with this episode that will transition throughout the season, and they're not like necessarily complaints, but I will explain them further. Let's get into some positives. I love the way they set up the tone of the second season with that story of Satrakian back when he was a child learning. That, I believe, was actually in the first Strain book. I love the way they set this up with his mother telling him a story about the man, Sardu, who went out hunting. And they do a really good job of making you care about the Master when he was a human. And it is one of the most disgusting scenes in the entire episode, and you're just like, I was watching the episode with my girlfriend, and that is our exact reaction we all kind of had, except for at the very end of that, she just kind of went, ew. I have to say that was one of the most amusing parts of that. Go back to modern day, and we're seeing them set up now. This is, as I said, nothing like the books. Now, I've read the trilogy. I love the trilogy. It's my favorite book trilogy of all time. Shameless plug for my friend Joseph, who introduced me to the series. Gave him a hard time for The Fall because I didn't like the prologue and how they set it up, actually, initially when I was reading the book. And I was like, oh man, they're going in the wrong direction, and trying to tell him how I was right and I was totally wrong, and if he's happening to watch this, oops. Joseph, thank you for showing me The Strain years ago. Back at the ranch, I love that they introduce all these characters again to you, where like Fett's on the roof and he's trying to, his plan is he wants to basically vampire-proof every single building in New York. Not exactly a practical idea, but Fett's a guy, he's a man of action. He wants to build stuff with his hands, he wants to show he's accomplished something. And I'm like, you go for it, Fett, because you're awesome. And we have Satrakian going to pay a visit to the Ancients, and where you see him going into this place with these hibernating guys, and they're like, we want to build an alliance with you, Satrakian. And I was like, why build an alliance with Satrakian? Because Satrakian is the dude. You know it. And so Gus and Satrakian are building this alliance with the vampires, and you can see this vampire civil war about to break out. Satrakian doesn't like it, he doesn't trust it, and rightfully shouldn't. But he knows of the Oxidolumen, which, for those of you who don't know, they haven't really explained too much yet. It's basically the hitchhiker's guide to vampirism. They need it because it could tell them what they need to beat the Master. That is going to play heavily into this season. Now, on to one of my first concerns. Well, actually, my two concerns kind of hit at once. First concern, they recast Zach. And I'm sorry, but this kid might as well have been a salt shaker, because all this kid was salt the entire freaking episode. He is Carl 2.0, and I don't want Carl in my Strain show, because one thing I hate about The Walking Dead is they don't have redeemable characters. The characters are not nice, and they don't feel human in The Walking Dead. And Zach Goodweather in The Strain had this humanity to him, and he was a sweet kid, he was really likable, he was one of the most likable characters in the show, and they changed the actor, I don't know, maybe because the other kid had school or something. I don't know, but they recast him, and he's a terrible casting so far. He whined the entire episode, and the Zach from season 1 wouldn't do that, and he didn't do that in the book, and I'm not okay with that. So I want them to have this Zach be the same Zach. If they recast him, he needs to maintain that humanity of the character. I don't want this kid to be a total snot, because Zach was never a snot. And that segues into my second one. In this TV version of The Strain, you see F drinking and stumbling around drunk all the time. Or not necessarily drunk, but not sober. And he's like, oh man, you want to drink with me? And he's just like drinking while he's trying to figure out a cure. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, we're all screwed anyway. And that is never how drinking was handled. I mean, I guess maybe the TV show wants to accommodate to those, like, I don't drink, drinking is evil kind of things, and pander to that. But that is not how the F character was in the book. In the book, yes, he drank, and Fett and him had a moment where he's like, oh, you quit drinking, you weren't a drunk, you quit drinking because that's what your wife insisted. Your wife is a vampire, and your son isn't here. So they were in a bar that was abandoned, and so he was like, might as well make it work, and they had drinks, and he would drink occasionally when he wasn't around Zach or someone else, but he never got drunk, except for maybe one scene. But they're playing it up so hard in this first episode. It was getting really frustrating, because I was literally like watching the TV going, F wouldn't do that. That is not how he did it in the books. And I know it's a different interpretation, but I feel like they're trying to play up that he's an alcoholic too much, when he was never really an alcoholic in the books to begin with. Those were my two negative complaints. I absolutely love the rest of this episode, especially the segment in the public storage, because F has just found out that they might have figured out that if they infect the infected with a new virus, it is possible that maybe they could reverse it and cure vampirism. And so F is like, if we can do this, we can stop the vampire apocalypse, because I am still at work. That is the F I know. So then, Satrakian says he has supplies that he needs to go get at the storage unit. And so they're in like the middle of a public storage, and they're opening it up, and he sees Satrakian's notes on vampirism. So you can see that they're making the connections and all of that cool stuff. And I love the segment where the power turns off and then it turns on, and you just see vampires everywhere, and they're running through the corridors, shooting close quarters combat with swords, guns, Satrakian being awesome, and them realizing that they need the old people who got infected for help. But the segment reminds me of something out of Aliens, and I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and that is the strain I love in the TV show, because they do such a great job of coiling up tension, good dramatic character development, and then it unsnaps right when you like can't take any more tension. It snaps and it's intense, and that's what the strain does well. And that's what it continued to do well in this episode. Yes, there's a lot of other things I didn't touch on, like Eichhorst, who's of course doing great, and all these other characters who were in the background, but the main story, that was amazing. I was on the edge of my seat, and that was basically the finale to the episode, and I was like, that is exactly what I need for my Strange show. I am loving it so far. They are going so different, because not really any of this happened in the second book this early on. The Ancients, you could argue that's an interpretation of how Satrakian learns that this book exists. But yeah, going in a totally different direction. I'm excited to see where it goes. Guys, gals, and everything in between, I absolutely love where we're going with this, because we're seeing into each character and their perspective. So like the Master, I want to see more of like how the Master became who he did. I want to see more Satrakian. I want to see some Ichor stuff too. I love it all. And even with Greystone or Stoneheart Corporation, I like seeing their business espionage in the background. Maybe it's because I love seeing bad guys do bad guy things like that, like business bad guy stuff. I always find that stuff really interesting in scripts, and they absolutely do that perfect. I love where this is going. I want to see more, particularly from just details of people. I'm okay if they take their time. And please continue watching the show, guys. I think it's on a great track record. I think it's amazing, and everyone should watch it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm going to do this every week for all the episodes. Got way more videos coming to you. If you're a part of Season 1 and watched all this with me, welcome back. So glad to be back. Love you guys.